Hey, let me make sure my volume is up. I see y'all made it back safe. Glad y'all made it back. And them feet, hope you put them feet up. Let me see if I can see my comments. Jesus, I can't comment. Okay, there we go. Oh wow. GPS went out. Well, y'all was on the way back or going? I hope on the way back that you know how to get back. You know, getting back is always quicker than going. I'm glad y'all made it back. Sure Mojo was glad to see y'all. Back for part two, y'all. Oh, I'm glad you said something today. Woohoo! We like boundaries. Yes, ma'am. And we don't when we set them, we don't feel bad about them either. Oh wow. Well, that's always a bummer having rain. Well, I am glad y'all tuned in. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sharing. Gonna give it a few more minutes to let everybody know we're on. It is right at 8 o'clock, so we got a few minutes. Let everybody know we on. So I got my red flag. I even made a flag, y'all. Uh-oh. But we ain't gonna talk about that on here. We'll talk about that. Me and you, girl. Oh Lord. I was praying. Let me know who's on. Y'all jump on. Let me know. Let me know. Let me know. I can't get this turned down. Oh, I don't want to break it, Jesus. Let me stop. Hello, hello. Let me know who's here. Let me know who's here. Who's joining us for Red Flags Part 2 tonight. Hopefully y'all can hear me loud enough. Let me pin this. Yeah. Let me know who's here. Who's joining us tonight. It's another wonderful Thursday. Try to get some organization here. Hello, hello. There we go. That's gonna be better. Glad you have joined us. Let me know who's joining us in the comments. Put your name. Let me know who's here. I'm live streaming on both. I'm doing it from my personal page on my computer this time, and on my phone I'm doing PCMinistries. So hopefully I got a young person here tonight, so maybe they can help me out tonight if anything goes wrong. Oh, yes, ma'am. You sure can. Just because you forgive somebody don't mean you have to deal with them every day or be in their life every day or still deal with them um, in the area that you had to forgive them in. Forgiveness is for you. Forgiveness is something that God says that we must do to free ourselves. And if God freely forgave us, we forgive others. When you get to that point where you can forgive, but forgiveness does not mean you have to still deal with them and allow them to do the things they were doing to you. Forgiveness does free you forgiveness does make it to where, say that person is making a change and you see that change, forgiveness allows you to deal with them on a better standpoint, maybe, because you see the change. But if you don't see the change, and even if you don't see the change, if you don't have a desire to deal with that person anyway, even though you have forgiven them, just make sure that your forgiveness and your reason for not wanting to deal with them is not bottled up in resentment. Sometimes we can forgive people, and then we say, well, I don't have to deal with them, and blah, blah, blah. But now we're into resentment. So you want to make sure your forgiveness has not turned into resentment. But you can definitely forgive someone and not deal with them anymore. I do it all the time. Family included. Say, okay, I had to get a clear understanding so I don't have to put myself back in harm's way. She will never change and it's rooted. Yeah, if somebody refuses to change and you have done all that within your power to do, yeah, you're not responsible for them. You know, you're not assigned to be their savior. You can pray for them and release them to the Lord. And whatever God shows you about them, you pray for them. And that's that. That's that. Oh, family, Jesus, they the worst. Family is worse. Because it's just, you see, and with family, you're so loyal. And you want it, you know, and you're so used to how it was. And then when it changes, you still feel loyal. But then that's a whole nother life, child. I mean, you in the same family. So, yeah, just pray for them. And if God shows you stuff, we're all called to intercession. So if you have a relationship with God and God is showing you something about this person, a lot of times we get that mixed up as, you know, God just showing me. God could be showing you because he could be leading you to intercede on behalf of that person. So whatever God shows you about that person, when in the area that you say they'll never change, pray for them in that area. Hey, Tiffany. Oh yeah, release them to the Lord. Yes. When you've done all you can do, because we're human. We're not God. And when you've done all you can do, release them to the Lord. It's above me now. Yes. It's above me now. Y'all see my red flag? We're going to get started in a little bit. Give people time to remember that we're on. Last week was so good. It was like, we need part two. So I'm like, okay, y'all want part two? And we were laying it down last week. They were talking about some stuff last week. And it got to like an hour and almost 20 minutes and they were still going. I'm like, no, y'all, this only supposed to be an hour. But it was good. So they were like, we need a part two. So here we are. Red Flags Part 2. I'm here to meet the needs of whoever needed. So we're going to get started in a few minutes. Share the flyer. Share, let them know we're on. Invite your friends. Because we've all ignored some red flags a time or two. You got your headphones on? All right. Because I think you were listening from the car traveling last week. I don't know where Tiffany at. Tiffany's somewhere probably vacationing and on Tiffany, where you at now? Well, traveling. So I'm gonna be like Tiffany when I grow up. I'm gonna be released here real soon. Trying to get my stuff right. Let me make sure my phone is turned up. Okay. So y'all, we're gonna get started here in a few minutes. Just hang out. About 2 minutes, 8:10. We'll get started. And I'll recap a little from last week and go into what God gave me for this week. Hopefully the same people that were requesting part 2 will be here tonight. So, are you home? Okay, good, girl. Put them feet up. Get some rest. Gotta have you on. Talk about some business credit soon. Yeah, the doctor gotta release me for that vacation. I have to get a sleeve before I fly. because I had the lymph nodes and the lymphatic system and all that. So I have the prescription. I just have to go get fitted and all of that. So I'm not going to fly anywhere right now. I'll be doing some flying next year to some engagements that I have. PCMinistries. So yeah, I got my prescription for my sleeve in preparation of my travel. Be getting with Memory Makers Vacations. Yes, if you need any travel arrangements, make sure you see Tiffany Bogle. She's in these comments, niece. She arrange it from the beginning to the end. Make sure everything's straight. That's who we use. So we'll get started, y'all, about 1 minute. 1 minute. We're going to be talking about red flags again tonight. Red flags part 2. And I'm sure people will be coming on as they remember, get home, get settled from wherever they are. And I'm glad you all have joined us tonight. So I'm going to go ahead. It's 8:10. I'm going to keep my word. This will be about 50 minutes tonight. We're trying to go to Myrtle Beach next year for a honeymoon. Yeah, see Tiffany. She's in the comments. She's a good dear friend of mine, Tiffany Bogle. She's in these comments lane. So send her a friend request and then talk with her about all the arrangements and all that good stuff. So with that being said, we are going to get started with PC Ministries. Thank you all for tuning in to PC Ministries Thursday Night Live, where we deal with what you feel from the inside out. I am not coming to you because I have arrived and I have all the answers or I'm a therapist and none of that kind of stuff. I'm just coming to you with mere experience and anointing, and that is my degree. Experience and anointing. God is my CEO. All right, so I thank you all for tuning in to Red Flags Part 2. We did Red Flags last week, and as y'all saw the flyer says we need to stop trying to love the red flags out of people. We really do. And we really do. And last week we talked about those red flags being emotionally dangerous. A lot of us, some of the discussion, let me get my glasses on. A lot of the comments in the comment sections of last week's discussion, they were saying that some of them ignored the red flags because of their own self-esteem issues. Some of them ignored them because of fear. Some of them ignored the red flags because for the kids. They were in situations where they couldn't leave, or they had the kids and they didn't know what to do or what have you. And some people said they ignored the red flags because they thought that they can change the person. And if we're honest, we all have ignored red flags in some of those categories or others. If we're honest, if we're honest, we will admit that that we have all ignored red flags. Some of the red flags that we have ignored, and again, these are some of the comments from last week. Some people said that they ignored red flags, that their mate would have private calls and then they would leave immediately after the call with no explanation, no kind of nothing. That might be a red flag, but who knows? Like, y'all see I done made me a red flag, y'all. Some people said that some of the red flags they ignored were their mate was disrespectful to their mother or their father or their parent. That's a red flag. I mean, you would want to know, how could someone be so disrespectful? Now, I also said last week, sometimes people are disrespectful to their parent because they are hurt, or they haven't forgiven their parent, i.e. some parents have been addicted to drugs while the child was growing up, and that child did not grow up with that parent. So there is some resentment, there is some hurt and some bitterness there that they need to heal from. So that could be the reason for the lack of respect. Although we should always honor our parents, people have to get to that part. They have to be healed from whatever the issue is to get to the part where they honor their parents. So sometimes showing disrespect to a parent could have deeper issues than just being rude and mean for no reason. Okay. Some of the other red flags that they said last week was staying away from certain places with you at certain times. Like why we can't go where everybody else going? You go. Why I can't go with you? Some of the red flags they gave last week was the mate was overly possessive, they were controlling, and they were isolating. They would try to isolate you from others. And someone asked a question last week. They said, what happens if red flags are hidden really good? Well, although they can be hidden, you can't hide them for long. They're going to show up somewhere. And if you think about it, think about the red flags that we have all ignored. There were signs somewhere. There were signs somewhere that, not necessarily ignored, but we just didn't really catch, because it could have been subtle, could have been in the mix with something, and we just didn't catch it. Hey, Miss Travia, how are you? You like the red flag? Yeah, I had to create a red flag. I got some antennas too, y'all. Don't make me some antennas too. So we're going to talk about, we need to have our antennas. Y'all see my antennas? And they're yellow. The yellow signifies for caution. Like last week we said, sometimes a red flag is not enough for us to end a relationship. It could just be a sign that something is there, but our antennas need to go up. Sometimes the flag is yellow, and it just means caution. It needs caution. Thank you. Sometimes it's yellow, but we need to have our antennas up when we see these things and pay attention to some of these things. I know it's a little humorous, and y'all know I think I'm a comedian anyway, but I'm gonna leave these antennas up because sometimes I don't know how they're going. But sometimes we need to have our antennas up, in these relationships, and stop ignoring certain things. We also talked about like the red flags can be, put my glasses on so I can see. Sometimes the red flags can be subtle, and if it appears more than once, we need to take note. It makes your antennas go up, because like we said, a mistake, you can have a mistake one time. A one time is a mistake. Yes, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Okay, but you're doing it again and again. Now it's a choice, and we need to stop ignoring those mistakes, or because now we're getting into something else. And the question that we are asking ourselves tonight is, I want to ask, like, why they can visit you but can never go yeah booty calls certain times of the night. That's a red flag. If he only calls you at a certain time, or she only calls you when she need, those are red flags, and we need to pay attention to those. So my question tonight, we want to dive into tonight, is why are we ignoring these red flags? Why? Like, what about us is making us ignore these red flags? I think last time we talked about, we're ignoring, sometimes we ignore these red flags because they're normal. We grew up with experiencing these same behaviors or things in our families, our fathers and stuff like that, so they're normal for us. So we have adapted to being able to deal with or put up with red flags. What about those of us that are drawn to toxic relationships, to where the red flags don't even matter? Why are we drawn to toxic relationships? This is some of the reasons we could be ignoring red flags. And again, a red flag, we gave definitions last week, and I'm going to give them again tonight. A red flag is a warning signal. When you see this, red normally means stop. Like, stop. And if you see them, wait a minute, stop. That's what that means. So if you see someone exemplifying a behavior that strikes your nerve or makes you, your antenna go up, you need to, if you don't stop, you need to get these antennas and pay attention to that behavior, whatever that issue is. If it hits you a certain way, you have the right to pay attention to that. Okay, a red flag is a warning signal. A warning signal is an alarm or a distress signal. To ignore, again, we want to know why are we ignoring red flags? To ignore means to refuse to take notice of or to disregard intentionally. Why do we refuse to take notice of this issue that this person keeps doing, or whatever the issue is? Why are we intentionally disregarding it? What about me makes me disregard that? And then I talked about insanity, which is extreme foolishness, where we do the same thing and expect different results. If this person is doing this over and over and over again, when does it get better? If it's something that they're doing over and over and over. Y'all see my antennas? Y'all like my antennas? Again, this yellow represents caution. We talked about last week, sometimes a red flag is not enough to make you stop, but your antennas need to go up. Sometimes the flag is yellow, and it just means you need to hold up and kind of take note, see what's going on. Put it, like I said, put it right here in your mind, put it in your head somewhere, and watch that. That's when your antennas need to go up. Antennas go up when you got a question, or you need to hear a little closer, or you might need to see. The antennas, this what antennas, make it clearer. We need to make this clearer. So your curiosity need to go up in that area that they are showing these yellow flags or these red flags in. Okay, again, a red flag usually indicates a reason to cease and back away, while a yellow flag is kind of less severe and instead cautions us to slow down. Okay, and a yellow flag or a red flag could signify a difficulty with an emotional issue. So it may not be enough for someone to walk away from somewhere, but it could be like if they have an issue with communication or timeliness or things like that. That's not necessarily a major red flag, but it could be a caution for you to pay attention to, and then something that they can work on, that they're willingly working on. That's a little bit different. And then even dealing with these red flags, you have to make a decision within yourself as to whether you want to deal with this or not. Because as you deal with people that are showing red flags and things like that, it's the potential for you to get emotionally damaged or hurt. Travia said, and the right to address it instead of brushing it under the rug. Yes, you have the right to address it. You are in a relationship. You are not a child. Nobody lords over you. We have to get past the point to where we are allowing people, or men, we're going to talk to women, men to just do and say whatever they want to do and say, talk to us any kind of way, treat us any kind of way. Any of that, any red flag that you are dealing with, if it's a red flag to you, then it matters. It may not be a red flag to them because it may be normal for them, but it may be a red flag to you. So if it's a red flag to you, then you're justified, and you have the right to question it. You have the antennas done went up. I have the right to ask you if we're in a relationship, if we're married. Yes, I have the right to ask these questions. And if they don't want to answer them, or they give you the runaround, and we have to stop ignoring them. I think a lot of times, hold on, I'm gonna get back to my notes here. And like we said, a lot of times we're drawn to toxic relationships. Okay, what about the reason we ignore them is because we're desperate for relationships. We'll put up with anything because we have a relationship. You're worth more than that. You're worth more than that. What about someone said they stayed there, ignored the red flags because they wanted to give it more time to see if it would change or if they could change them. I'm trying to see these comments, y'all. Make sure I'm not missing anybody. Your lack of self-respect so you tolerate them. We tolerate them because we don't have self-respect, or we have low self-esteem, so we tolerate because we don't think we can do better or we can get any better. Or if they're telling you that ain't nobody gonna love you or you can't do no better, why would they tell you that? Or don't nobody want you, red flag people. So we have to ask ourselves why. If you are ignoring red flags, you have to ask yourself, why am I ignoring this? Why am I putting up with this? Sometimes we ignore them because we feel like we can change or fix them, or we'll believe it'll work out over time. All of these are very destructive thought patterns and are usually wrong. Closing your eyes to these situations will not result in the type of relationship you want, crave, or dream of. It's not going to happen if you keep ignoring these red flags. We talked about mismatched relationship goals, where if you're dating someone and he says that he never wants to get married or have children, and you do, okay, where's that relationship going? Not necessarily a red flag as in him being wrong that he does not want to get married or have children. But if that's what you want to do, then where is the relationship going? It's already started out unequal. Y'all not even going the same way. So why are you still in this relationship? If he clearly states he don't want to get married or have kids, and that's what you want, then be woman enough to let it go. I don't care how good he look. I don't care how much money he has. I don't care if you don't want to be lonely or what have you. Unless you want to be in a relationship like that, or you want to stop, do away with your dreams or your wants. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. So tonight we want to talk about, get more into why we ignore these red flags. Some of the red flags we ignore, why we ignore them, because a lot of them may sometimes subconsciously trigger childhood wounds. And again, these are questions to ask yourself. Am I putting up with this red flag because it reminds me of a childhood wound? Whether you want to acknowledge what that wound is, you have to ask yourself that, ask God that to reveal to you, what is it about me that's drawn to this? Or what is it about me that's making me feel like I have to put up with this? Okay, that's something that you have to ask yourself. Hey, Rashida, it's something that you have to ask yourself. Another question is, sometimes we ignore them because we don't trust ourselves and our own intuition. Okay, now you don't have any confidence. So it's hard to date. I'm not going to tell you shouldn't date, but it's hard to date when you don't have no esteem or no confidence. I mean, because if you don't know who you are or what you want or what you're going for, somebody's going to tell you what you are and who you are. And that's not fair to you. You ought to yourself to know who you are yourself. And there's nothing wrong with you knowing who you are, knowing, what you want and what you expect, having standards and characters and requirements. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you go into a relationship and you don't have that, and you happen to get with someone who has all these red flags, and you just ignoring them because you don't trust yourself, and you just, that you don't need to be in a relationship. And I'm sorry, you don't need to be in a relationship. You're too broken. You're not even halfway whole. You got to know who you are a little bit going into these relationships. Okay, a lot of times it says that we ignore red flags because we fear change of the unknown, or we don't want to be alone. I mean, a lot of women I've mentored and coached that don't want to be alone, so they put up with a lot of nonsense. And that this man is not good for you. You know that this man is not changing. You know that. But because you don't want to be alone, because he comes by your house twice a week and put the D on you a little bit and make you feel loved, and he going back doing what he do, you okay with that? You are worth so much more than allowing somebody to do you like that. And we have to get to the worth. If we teach people how to treat us, if we don't value ourselves, we can't expect anybody else to value. So we're talking about women, and we're talking about women. If as a woman, if I don't value myself, I can't expect a man to value me. And then if I don't value myself and I meet a man and he's a good man, but he sees that I don't value myself, why would he stick around? Why would a good man who's looking for a whole woman or a strong woman or whatever deal with me when I don't have good self-esteem or good confidence or I don't value myself, he's not going to stick around because he wants somebody who values herself. So us dealing with our own self-esteem is our job. It is our job to validate ourselves, build our self-esteem, our confidence. But we have to become one with ourselves. We have to understand who we are. We have to understand our own value, our own morals and stuff like that, what makes us tick. We have to understand that. And when we don't understand that and we go into these relationships, we can be tossed and turned and flipped over and used and abused, just allowing stuff to just happen, and because we don't have any confidence or self-esteem or self-awareness about us. So we have to do better in that area. We deal with red flags because we have low self-esteem. We feel like, we have internalized feelings where we feel like we don't deserve or can't get anything better. If you feel like that, you need to call me for some coaching, because we need to do better than that. We have to build our self-esteem in that area, because you can't tell me that you're happy with allowing yourself to be done any kind of way, talked to any kind of way. You can't, and especially when every woman wants to be the only woman that their man is in love with, or every woman wants to be treated like the queen that she is and not have to worry about red flags, especially the red flags that are damaging. We're not talking about issues that they can work on. We're talking about red flags. Again, one time is a mistake. 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and ongoing, those are choices. So why are we still hanging around and dealing with these red flags? Now, sometimes red flags, you can't always assume the worst with the red flag. But if it's, like I said earlier, if that thing is hitting you and it made your antennas go up, you have the right to question it. You have the right to take a look at it and kind of put that thing right there and kind of watch it. Okay? You have that right. Now let me ask y'all this question. We're going to turn a little curve here. Sometimes we deal with red flags because we're numb. And numb means we're deprived of the power of sensation, feeling, or responsiveness. Because we've dealt with it so long, whether it be childhood, we're so used to it, we're prone to it, or we're in a relationship with someone that the red flags is coming and going, and you just beat down and overwhelmed, and you just numb to it all. So you just in a relationship, just whatever. I can't say this enough. You are worth so much more than what you are allowing. You're worth so much more. And I know there are some situations where, some of the ladies said last week that they stay in these relationships or they ignore the red flags in relationships because of the children. I understand that. I do. And I don't have any direction as far as, I'm not going to sit here and tell you what to do in that situation, because that's not my situation. But I will tell you, you are worth more than that. Your value is worth more than that. And you need to begin to seek God for his plan for your life, to get lined up with what God has for you and his way of escape, his way of provision around that, to build you from the inside out so you can make the decisions you need to make pertaining to your situation, because you don't deserve to be stuck or feel like you're stuck in a relationship because of the kids, that you have to put up with certain things. So, I can pray with you on that and be a resource and a support for you in that area if need be. Just let me know, inbox me, it's confidential, and we can begin to work on that part of your life. But I want to ask you all this question. Again, we're talking about why we ignore red flags. Are you in a relationship with potential? Is that why we ignore? Somebody said we just be winging it. Yeah, I'm winging it, and that ain't happy. That don't have no end. We don't know which way that's going if we winging it. But are we ignoring these red flags because we're in a relationship with potential? And potential means having or showing a capacity to become or develop into something in the future. So are we ignoring these red flags because we are in a relationship with potential? Again, I'm posing these questions for you to ask yourself. One of the hardest things for us to do is to love someone where they're at, especially if where they are is somewhere we don't want them to be. I got to love you in these red flags, knowing I don't want these red flags, knowing I don't want you treating me like this, knowing I don't want you doing me like this, knowing I don't want you blah 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 blah. But I'm choosing to love you in that because I think you have the potential to be something great. So you putting up with these red flags? Why? And then if we have these self-esteem issues and these self-worth issues, where are those issues coming from? Where did these issues come from? Rejection, lack of affirmation, lack of validation, poor body image, poor what? Where did they come from? We have to get to the point to where we know where these come from, because these things is what's driving our behavior. This is what's dictating how what we put up with and who we is dictating it. So we have to understand, these drivers that are driving us, these low self-esteem and low confidence and no worth, lack of worth issues that we're dealing with. So we have to figure out what those issues are that's driving us and that's forcing us or compelling us to put up with red flags that we know. We're not stupid, ladies. We're nowhere near stupid. We're nowhere near dumb. We're not. So why are we putting up with things that we know? Again, sometimes because we're lonely, we're frustrated, we're sexually frustrated. So because he come by every now and then and he put a little D on us, we just accept that. No, you're worth more than that. People often tune out red flags to maintain positive illusions about their partners. Again, we tune out the red flags. We ignore them because we're dating. We're in a relationship with potential. Let me ask you this. Are you treating your mate like a fixer-upper? Have you purchased a fixer-upper home and you got it, it got some cracks, the roof need to be fixed over here, and then the floor the carpet need to be taken up because it just looks a mess. The plumbing is a mess. The electricity is a mess. All of this is seen. When you buy a fixer-upper, all of this stuff is out in the open. It's visible. There's nothing that you got to find. Are you treating your mate like a fixer-upper? You see all this stuff? You see all this stuff? But you gonna expend the time and energy to try to fix them up? I mean, again, that's your call. See these antennas? That's your call. If that's what you want to do, that's your call. That's your right to want to do a fixer-upper. But you just need to understand that is potentially harmful to your emotions. It potentially emotionally damaging. Okay? So you have to be prepared for the outcome, because again, we deal with these red flags because we hope, and that's the chance you take. What about this? Are you building a bear? Yeah, remember the build a bear? Where you put the nose and you gotta stuff it and you gotta put it together? How much do you have to build? You gotta build everything? You got to be the mama? You got to be his mother? You got to build everything? May not be a red flag enough for you to walk away. But I do believe your antennas need to go up. Yeah, you're right. That fix up is a whole remodel. You tear that down to the foundation. But if that's you dealing with a fixer-upper partner, or you building a bear, that's your prerogative as to, Felicia said, woo, hey Tasha, that's your prerogative as to whether you want to treat your mate like a fixer-upper or if you want to build a bear. That's your right. But you have to understand that the outcome of that is potentially emotionally damaging. And if you're not secure enough in your self-esteem, your self-worth, your confidence, that could be potentially dangerous for you in the area of your emotions and your esteem, because you are expecting something from someone that they may not be able to give you. And sometimes that's what a red flag is. It's not always a bad thing. Again, it's caution, because a red flag can signify something in your mate that they need to work on, that they may not be capable of having a healthy relationship. Y'all see my antennas going everywhere? Yeah, because these red flags be going everywhere. So we need to pay attention. But a lot of times, like I just said, a red flag is not always a reason to walk away. But you do need to have your antennas up, some caution, to pay attention to some things, because they could be displaying these red flags because they are not healthy enough for a relationship at this time. So now it's up to you to whether you want to fixer upper or build a bear, and just understand the work, the trials, the effort, the possible emotional bondage that can come along with that as you move forward in somebody that's displaying red flags, caution, or major. You need to put boundaries around how much you're going to put up with, how much you're going to build, all of that. Okay? If you're in a relationship with potential, is it because you're tired of being single? Are you lonely, sexually frustrated? Come on, y'all, tell me in the comment section, why did you put up with some red flags? Have you ever been in a relationship with potential before? Sometimes we're so motivated to find a desirable partner, that we believe it, like we have, how you meet somebody and you have them first impressions, you put your best foot forward in the beginning. So they, same with us women too, we do the same thing. We put our best foot forward when we're meeting somebody because we're trying to impress. We want them to think the best for us. We want them to look at us and want a second date or want to pursue or something like that. So we put our best foot forward in these first impressions, So, it flatters our ego and, make us feel good. And the same thing for men. Yes, seeing potential. Exactly. And that's why sometimes we, put up with these red flags, because we're potential. And potential is having or showing the capacity to become or develop into something in the future. It may not be right now, but how long have you been in a relationship with this potential? Somebody said you end up having to rebuild yourself after enduring the yeah. If there's anything, if there's any of you left, yeah, you got a lot of rebuilding to do. A lot of times, when we are in relationship with potential, this wishful thinking or this hopeful potential that we see can cloud our better judgment. It really can. If we are in these relationships and we're married to potential and we're hoping and we're building a bear and we're fixing it up and we're doing all this work, if he's not working and if he's sitting back letting you put him together and he's just sitting back or what have you, I mean, where's the red flag in that? Where's the red flag in that? We all put our best foot forward when we start dating someone because we want to make a good impression. Once we form a good impression of someone, we unconsciously, y'all listen to this and see if you can wrap your mind around this, if you can recognize this. It says once we form a first impression of someone we're dating, we unconsciously begin to selectively look for evidence of everything that confirms the first impression. Y'all get that? Let me say that again. When we form a first impression of someone that we're dating, we unconsciously begin to selectively look for evidence of everything that confirms the first impression. So if they say they're this and they have impressed you with this, you are unconsciously looking for the things to support what that person said they were or what that person showed you they were. You don't, necessarily do it like, it's subconscious. So if someone told you they were this, oh, okay. So you're in your mind, that's the impression you have of them, and you expect certain things, or there are certain things you look for that supports or complements, or confirms what that first impression is. You're not too late, Kiara. You can just look at the replay. But we're talking about right now, the part that we're on is we want to talk about, we talked about the red flags, but we're talking about if we have to make sure that we're not in a relationship with potential. We talked about, are you treating your mate like a fixer-upper? Now how you buy a house and you got to fix her up, and you buy the house and it comes as is. And then, the roof is bad, the floor is bad, the plumbing bad, the electricity bad, the yard tore up. And this is what you bought it. You saw it and you decided to buy it. Is that how we're treating our mates? And then what about a Build-A-Bear? You know how I used to do the Build-A-Bears? You had to put the bear together. You got to build it. Okay, if that's what you choose to do, how long have you been doing this? And is he sitting back just allowing you to fix him up or build him with no return, no reciprocation anywhere? See my antennas? You have to have an antenna. You got to be looking at something somewhere. Again, when we are in a relationship with potential, that's having or showing capacity to become or develop into something in the future. Travia said, right, even when it's only two things that support that impression, and 99, honey, not them 99. Again, a red flag is a warning signal. Warning signal. A warning signal is an alarm. And we have to stop ignoring them. Again, a red flag is not always a reason to walk away. Not always. It's not always. And if you choose to ignore the red flag, that's your call. That is your call. But you have to understand the potential for the emotional damage that could come from that to your self-esteem, your confidence, and all of that. You taking that risk to continue, because a lot of times we ignore these red flags like we talked about last week because we think we can change them, because we think our stuff is enough to make them change, because we think if we have a baby, I'm just tossing out some stuff, y'all. No, if a person don't want to change, they're not going to change. And change is not change until you changed. Changing is not change. Change is not change until you have changed. And it takes work. It takes work. So how much you're willing to put up with it, that's your call. But you have to be secure enough within your womanhood, your right mind, strong in your mind, your self-esteem, your confidence, and your worth to be able to put up with stuff like this. And I don't know no woman that's strong to just put up with red flags over and over, getting beat down and overwhelmed, and that. I don't know. So we're talking about, are you in a relationship with potential? So I just left off with, once we form a first impression of someone we're dating, we unconsciously begin to selectively look for the evidence of everything that confirmed that first impression. And then if we have doubts or that we start seeing red flags, have y'all ever done this? Girl, you need to check him out for me, or a family member or a girlfriend. I need y'all to check him out and see if y'all see the same thing. You seen that? Or how did you? Now we want them to confirm or validate what we already know. Validate the red flag we already see. Why? You see the red flag, you don't need nobody to tell you it's a red flag. If it's a red flag to you, it may not even be a red flag to them. They might be dealing with their own issues. It may not be an issue to them. It's all about you. So then we ask our family and friends to confirm or validate what we already believe, what we already know, the red flag that we already see. And then if we don't like what they say, or it goes against our reasoning for asking them in any way, because we want somebody to justify me ignoring these red flags. If we don't like what they say. Now we make a decision. Again, we're talking about why we choose to ignore the red flags. If we don't like what they say, what we do, then we decide to selectively ignore anything that challenge or question the first impression. We don't even take what they say now. And then we start making excuses for anything that they do. We make excuses for it now. And again, we're talking about why we choose, because I believe ignoring red flags is a choice. Whether it's because of a reason or a trauma or whatever issue that you have within yourself, you still make the decision to ignore it. And we want to get to the bottom of why we feel that we have to ignore it. For what? What is it that we hope to gain from this? I mean, if someone refuses to see your value, and they don't treat you the way you need to be treated, then they don't deserve you. They don't deserve you. So we have to ask ourselves, why am I allowing myself to put up with this? And a lot of times, we women, we got our own houses, our own cars, our own money, all of this. We're doing it big. And we're still putting up with, like, you don't even need them. And if that's your situation, think about that. You don't even need them. So you got all of this, but you're lonely. I get that. But that still don't mean you have to degrade yourself or devalue yourself or allow yourself to be devalued. No. Everybody's not for everybody. And it's okay to date. It's okay to see if you and a person, is compatible and things like that. But when you start seeing these in the beginning, if you're dating, it's okay. You can see some red flags. It may not be a reason to stop, but you want to note it. You want your antennas to go up. You want to have a little caution in a certain area. Okay, you want to make sure you're being respected, prioritized, supported, desired, loved, and understood. That's the requirement. And if you can't do that, come on now. If you can't do that, and we're getting ready to close, but I want to also talk about these red flags, like how we get to the point to where we get so wrapped up in them, or we get so lost in these relationships. What Kira said, these days men don't date anymore. What does that mean? Because I've been married for 28 years, so I haven't dated in 30 years. What does that mean, Kira? What do the men do now? Like, so if you see somebody you like out in the store or at the club or wherever you all are going to meet people, or the football, wherever it is, how do they approach you? Like, how do you, if the men don't date anymore, how do you even like get together? Like, what is the initial communication to even show interest? Like, what do they do now? Anybody that's dating, and since the men are not dating anymore, Netflix and chill. Okay, what does that mean? Like, that's a date now? Netflix and chill? Y'all talk to me. Because again, like I said, I've been married 28 years, so I haven't I date my husband, we date, but I don't date, different people. So I don't know what that is. So what is it that, single ladies and men what is that dating pool looking like? So dating now is Netflix and chill. So Netflix is at your home or his home and chilling. I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's how they're treating you, even with the Netflix and the chilling. I think it could be a combination of things. If you want to do more than Netflix and chill, and he don't, why don't he want to do more than Netflix and chill inside? She said it's hard to find a man who wants to take you out to dinner or a movie. Why is that? We might need to do another show on that right there. to see why that is. Does anybody know why they're saying that it's hard to find a man to take you out to dinner or a movie or a comedy show? Travis said they get mad when they say, yeah, when we ask the family members to check and they say something you don't want to hear, then you get mad. You get mad. Yeah, we need to see where we're looking for these men, or looking at these men, or where these men are coming from, what type of atmosphere or surrounding. You know, a lot of times, y'all, and I'm just going to put this out here. I'm not saying this about anybody on here because I don't know y'all like that. But sometimes men look at the way we carry ourselves. And a lot of times we have to understand, we as women have to understand that there are a lot of predators out there. And they prey upon women who they can see us, the ones of us that don't have good esteem. They can see the ones of us that don't have good confidence or self-worth. They can see that. So we want to make sure that we have that within ourselves, our self-worth, our self-esteem, you know, that we're confident in who we are and our value. Like, again, like I said in the beginning, we teach people how to treat us. And if we don't value ourselves, we cannot expect anyone to value us. So there are certain places that a woman of value just not gonna frequent. Now, you can put that where you want to put it. There are certain things that a woman that values herself are just not going to put up with. There are certain languages that when we're dating that a woman of value, a woman with great self-esteem, you're not going to talk to me no any kind of way. I don't care how fine you are. I don't care how good the D is. You're not going to talk to me no any kind of way. So we have to make sure that we as women, we are walking in our confidence. We are walking in our womanhood with our head up and our shoulders back, because we're just that bad. We are just that what God created us to be. So we have to carry ourselves and walk in that light. And what that does, it doesn't mean that you think you're better than everybody else or you bougie. They call you bougie. Excuse me. Then they're not for you. If they look at you and they say because you carry yourself with standards or you carry yourself a certain way based on how you want to carry yourself, and you don't put up with their shenanigans or their now you bougie or whatever, then they're not for you. You get in control of who you are, how you want to be, how you want to carry yourself, and you will attract the right person. Sometimes we are looking to attract certain people in the wrong places. In the places that we are looking in is nothing there. But we have to put ourselves in a different pond or a different area or what have you. Broaden your horizon, you know. But if you're looking for a good quality man at the liquor store, or I'm just saying, that's you get. And I'm not saying anybody's doing that, but I'm just saying we have to get to the point where we're walking in our self-confidence, our self-esteem, our self-worth, and we don't water that down, or we don't bow that down to nothing. I don't care how fine he is. I don't care how good he is. I don't care if the kid that's your baby daddy, if he ain't acting right, then he ain't acting right. And if you didn't have self-esteem or value or things like that, and you got it now, then he just need to get with the change or get on. But you owe it to yourself to walk in your confidence of who you are. And we have to get to the point of walking in that. We have to get to the point where we understand why. Okay, get to the part where if you have low self-esteem, why? Where is that coming from? If you don't have any self-worth, why? Where is that coming from? If you don't have any confidence, why? Where is that coming from? You got to find out where that's coming from, because you are worth so much more than that. You know, we can't compare ourselves to other women in other situations. We are not our mistakes in our past. Our past can't, we can't allow our past to dictate our future. If we were tore up from the floor up in the past, we don't have to be tore up from the floor up in the future. But it takes our inner work. It takes an inner work for us to do to build ourselves. My self esteem, although I'm married for 28 years, my self esteem is not wrapped up in my husband. It ain't his job to validate me or affirm me, although he should as my husband. But if he don't, I got to know that I'm fine and beautiful and capable and confident myself. So a lot of times, yeah, it does start with us. A lot of times we look for validation, we look for our self-esteem, we look for our confidence and our worth in people, places, and things. And that's not where we get it from. Like Arlene said in here, it starts with us. People, places, and things, our job. If you think your job values you, get sick. Mine fired me in the middle of chemo because I couldn't perform my job like I normally could. They fired me. I'd been there almost 10 years. Fired me. So if I had put my worth in my job, I'd be under the bus. How many of you put your value in an ex and y'all exes now? So now y'all ain't nowhere together. Where is your value? Where is your esteem? And y'all don't even go together no more. He took it with him? Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Really? And I'm saying it like this. So you put yourself esteem and your worth and your value in a dude and y'all ain't together no more. So when he left, he took your self-esteem, your self-worth, and your confidence with him? Please look at it that way. Please look at it that way. That's not fair to you. That's not even right. That's not even right. Hey, Stacy, things change, but you remain. Yes. That's not even right. Why would you allow, okay, again, because it starts with us. Why do we allow someone to take our self-esteem? Why do we allow situations, people, places, or things to take our self-worth, our confidence? See, that's what you have to ask yourself. And that's why this is the question we're asking ourselves tonight. Why are we ignoring red flags? Where is our confidence? Where is our self-esteem? Where is our self-worth? Where is it? It ain't nobody else's job to give that to us. That's ours. So where is it? Where did you put it down? Who did you give it to? Where did you lay it down? Is it buried? What is it buried under? We need to go clean out some closets and stuff and find our self-esteem, our worth, and our we need to find it, because we're dealing with red flags. We ignore them. We ain't got no antennas. We don't pay attention to nothing. We don't ask questions about nothing. We just take what they're saying, knowing we dating a fixer-upper, and he ain't even trying. Or we building a bear and we don't want to. Now, if you want to build a bear, that's your call. Rashida said I had to start healing that broken little girl. Rashida, I did a PCMinistries a long time ago where it was talking about locating your hurt little girl. Ooh, talking about painful. Painful, yeah. Locating your hurt little girl. And that was based off of my mother's life. That was one of my first ministries that I preached one time. Is locating your hurt little girl, because if we don't, she could be somewhere in fetal position. Your self-esteem is probably somewhere in fetal position. When we're in fetal position, we're scared, we're lonely, we're lost, we have no direction. Your confidence is somewhere in fetal position. Your worth somewhere in fetal position, because something done ran it away, something done took it, and we have to get to the bottom of where that is. Now, one thing I want to point out too, as we get ready to close, there are 4 seasons in every relationship. Again, we're talking about why we choose to ignore red flags. Why are we trying to love the red flags out of people? All relationships go through ups and downs, just like the weather. They have their unique seasons and phases. All relationships. I've been married for 28 years, and you can imagine in 28 years, we've had a lot of seasons. Seasons changed. We had a lot of ups and downs, outs and ins, disagreements, all of that. But it's through these seasons that relationships are made. Okay, that's how they're made. Those are the seasons of a relationship. They go through it. But what we do is we don't we don't we don't date or pay attention to the seasons. Like we jump into the relationship, and everything is this, but we don't pay attention to, we don't date them in the different seasons of the relationship. We just so focused on one thing in one area that we don't even pay attention. Our antennas don't even go up in the other seasons of the relationships. Now, what are the seasons of the relationship? Okay, we're going to start with spring. Make sure I'm looking at y'all's comments. Okay, so let's go with spring. This is the first season of a relationship, and usually one of the most happiest and most harmonious. This is the romantic season of the relationship, where we explore all the excitingness, and we just so butterflies, and all the during this time, we learning about them, and they learning about us. You can see some red flags here too, but sometimes we just dating. This is the beginning, so it may not be a red flag, but it need to be one of these, just in case there's something. But okay, let me see where that go right there. During this time, we learn about everybody. We just meeting their friends, and we're just hungry for that person during this season. We're more willing to look past the things that would make our antennas go up in this season. Kind of, it's the little romantic time. We might look past a few little things that might make my antennas, because we're feeling all fluffy and things. So then we get to the summer, often referred to as like the honeymoon period. During this phase, that partner, you can do no wrong. Y'all done got past the little spring, and you're feeling good, and now it's been a few months, and now it might be the potential to be something. So they can't do no wrong now. That's it. And just like we look past the red flags in the spring, we work hard to put our partners on a pedestal during the summer. Now we're putting them on a pedestal, and we excuse little things that annoy us, and we sweep major things under the rug in an attempt to keep the peace and to keep the intimacy flowing, to keep this feeling of going, whatever that feeling of is for you in this season. Because you okay, some of the reasons could be because I finally have somebody. I don't want to be lonely anymore. Somebody's showing me some attention now. I'm sexually frustrated, so now I'm getting a little sex. So now I'm gonna justify and sweep some things under the rug because now I got some feel good. Okay, so we're in this summertime. These are seasons. Okay, don't look at like just relating the seasons to the seasons. Okay, and then we move on to the autumn. This is autumn usually signifies death, like leaves and stuff like that, but then it can also be rebirth. This goes the same for our relationships. As we enter this phase, now the cracks begin to show. When our relationships are in this stage, we start seeing a little more of our partner's faults and flaws for who they really are, and then we find ourselves dealing with more complex emotions. Now we done got a little further in, and they know they done got you a little further in, so now they comfortable because we probably have ignored stuff through the last few seasons that they was like, okay, she cool with it. Okay, so you've taught them from them last few seasons, you've taught them how to treat you. So because you ignore some things, let some things slide for whatever reasons, whatever your reasons are, they're getting stronger in, okay, well, she cool with it. Now you've taught him how to treat you. So now, you got an expectation of some things you desire, and now you got some issues because now you dealing with some flaws and some pushback, but you ignored in the past. Okay, these are different seasons. Okay, now we find ourselves in the battle of our relationship. So now we're bickering and we're fighting. Now we got arguments and we're withholding, cold shoulders and stuff like that. Okay, now what is this season? How do they act in this season? So you want to see how this person act in these seasons. You want to see how you act in these seasons. Then we move on to winter. Winter is when we let go of the need to see only the best light. Okay, it's cold now. We often explode, and first time we truly reveal the depths of our feelings. Now we're getting into our feelings. Hey, cuz, now we're getting into our feelings and our emotions and our authentic reactions. So now, now we finna go right back around to spring, where we can keep this thing going and going and going. And when we're in these relationships, we have to date these people in different seasons. We have to see how they respond to needs and wants in different settings, different atmospheres, different seasons before we just jump all the way in. And if they are displaying red flags in the spring, displaying the same red flags in the summer, in different settings and whatever, displaying the same red flags in the autumn and winter, are your antennas up? Or did you, because you finally got somebody, you ignore them? Again, we have to get to the bottom of why we are choosing to ignore these red flags. When you're dating, date in different seasons, date in different settings, atmospheres, around different people. And again, if their red flags are rising up in you, then you have every right to question them, to ask, and see how they respond to your questioning. See how they respond to your asking. That's it. You have that right. And if we're not doing that and we're just letting people do us and treat us any kind of way, you have to ask yourself why you're doing that and why you're choosing to ignore red flags. Again, to ignore means to refuse to take notice of. Why are we refusing to take notice of the red flags? Why are we intentionally disregarding these red flags? And then you get down years later and now you wondering, where did this come from? No, you saw it back in year 1, 2. And now it's year 10 and you wondering what? No, you in winter. Now you mad, but you put up with it in spring, summer, and fall. Now you in the winter and now you want to get mad. No, you put up with it. Again, we teach people how to treat us. So if he know he's been showing some signs or what have you, whether he is aware of it or not, and you have allowed it to go on, he's gotten stronger in it or okay with it because you haven't said anything. Or you haven't let him know this a problem. He might not even know. Somebody say, ooh, child. Yeah, might not even know. So we have to be fair on both sides. If you notice something that's a red flag for you, if it's a red flag for you, then it's a red flag. It may not be a red flag for him, but if it's a red flag for you, you have the right to question it. And again, sometimes red flags are not enough for us to walk away. It could just be a yellow flag, which means caution, for your antennas to go up. And antennas signify, it makes things a little clearer. Okay, I might need to ask a question about that right now. I'm a little inquisitive, curious about that. That's your antenna. You know, some of the reasons that they were saying that they ignored red flags last week, part one was because they had their own self-esteem issues. They had fear. Some said they ignored them because of the kids, or they thought that they could change them. And some of the red flags that they were ignoring was private calls. And then when they get the call, they leave immediately after with no explanation. Where you going? Especially if we're in a relationship or we're married, you're going to tell me where you're going. I have that right. If they don't tell you, and like Maya Angelou said, when someone tells you or shows you who they are, why are we not believing them? I'm asking this question. Y'all answer. Can somebody answer that question? When somebody shows you who you are, whether it's relationship, work, or wherever, why are we not believing them? What is it that are we, again, like I said earlier, Are we in a relationship with potential? Are we not believing them because we see the good of something that we hope to see in the future? Okay, well, we ain't in the future. We right now. We need to discuss. My antennas don't went up. What you showing me right now? We need to talk about that. So why is it when somebody shows us who they are, we're not believing them, or we choose to intentionally disregard that, and then wonder what happened or why we here? And think back to times, then you dealt with something, and then you're like, where did that come from? I didn't even know. Yes, you did. You saw signs of it, but you chose to ignore it because you got somebody, or you didn't want to lose him, or you scared that if you talked up or stood up for yourself, he might leave. For whatever reasons you choose to ignore it, you got to be real. And I think my cousin said on here, to thine own self be true. That is actually right. You have to be true to your own self. Somebody said disbelief. Yeah, a lot of times we put up with it because disbelief. Yes, sometimes we are so hurt by what somebody is doing that it paralyzes you, and you feel stuck and you don't do nothing. Somebody said dismissing the truth and not wanting to own it. That's a hurtful thing. And you know what? I found that out with a lady that I was coaching. She was getting married, and she said she knew she shouldn't have married him, but she did anyway because she had come too far, and the invitations had went out, the venue, everything was paid for. They had spent a lot of money. But you know what the red flag was in that, y'all? You know what the red flag was? And I won't say any names. Know what the red flag was in that anyway? Who asked me who was spending the money? She was the only one spending the money. She was the only one spending the money for the wedding. She paid for everything. And she didn't want to be embarrassed by calling it off. She didn't want to be embarrassed because the invitations had went out, food was paid for, the dress, all of that. She didn't want to call it off because it was too embarrassing, or she had come this far. They were married for, I want to say, not even 5 years. I don't even think it was that long. I don't even think it was 2 years, but I'm not sure. Yeah. I mean, because they go too far. They're too embarrassed. They don't, that embarrassment can overwhelm you and grip you to where you don't want to face that. That's a real issue. That's a real I don't even know what to call it. That's a real fear. A lot of people have gotten married when they know they shouldn't have. A lot of people. A lot. Somebody say, I've never been married, but you're miserable. I'm not sure what that means. I've never been married, but you're miserable. Too many people worry about, yeah. And people have, and then, yeah. There's so many reasons why they make you not own the real truth. Yeah. It's so many reasons why we put up with red flags or we choose to ignore them. And again, this live is not because I have all the answers or because I'm just so great and I've never dealt with red flags. This is red flags part 2, why we try to ignore the red flags out of people, because I want us to get to the bottom of why we're doing that. Why are we ignoring the red flags? Kira said, when you go into a marriage knowing it's not right and you're okay, yes. Yeah, and you go into it with red flags from the beginning. And a lot of times we get married thinking we can change that person or it's going to get better. And I'm going to say this, and I said it last week. What you got when you're dating and you're getting ready to marry is what you're gonna get when you get married. If not, and 10 times worse. I don't even. For those of us that's been married, you get the same thing you got before afterwards. It don't change because you got married. If it was bad before you got married, it's gonna be bad after you got married. And I'm pro marriage. I've been married 28 years and they've been wonderful. Wonderful. Lots of ups and downs, outs and ins. That's with any marriage. And I wouldn't change it for the world. I would marry him all over again. I'm blessed. But the same person I was dating is the same person I married. Now we grew together. We evolved. We got saved. God done some work in us. All of that. But you can't change nobody but yourself. And again, we're talking about why, we're ignoring the red flags. Why are we choosing to ignore the red flags? Why are we I'm gonna go back over this one here and we're gonna get ready to close. Are you in a relationship with potential? Are we treating our mate like a fixer upper or a builder bear? How long you been fixing the house up? How long you been fixing him? How many years? And he letting you sit there, letting you do it? You building a bear. How long you been building the bear? How long you been putting the same ear on? How long you got the stuffing? Why are we ignoring these red flags? What about us is making us ignore red flags? What about us? We need to have some antennas. Some things that shouldn't be happening. And like we said earlier, I think Travis said it, you have the right to question. You have the right to question. If you're in a relationship with somebody or you're married with, you have the right to question. Somebody said, once that light bulb comes on, there's nothing nobody can tell you, and it's a wrap. Yeah, you owe it to yourself. Somebody said, the core of the person is their truth. You are actually right. This really makes us think. That's exactly what I want this to do, Kira, is to make you think. Make you think that when you're faced with it, you ask yourself, because everybody, men, women, everybody, we are worth so much more. Like, we are worthy. We are worth. We have to deal with our own self-esteem and our own self-worth. Like I said earlier, you dating a guy, or what have you, or if a man is dating a woman and y'all break up or whatever, and you place your self-esteem, your self-worth, and your self-confidence in this person, and y'all break up, and he leaves, and he takes your self-esteem and your confidence and your worth with him? No. No. That is yours. That is ours to maintain. Our self-esteem, our self-confidence, and our self-worth, and our values, that's ours to maintain. That's ours to cultivate and grow. It does not belong. I've been with my husband for almost 30 years, and my self-esteem, my value, and my confidence is not his to maintain. It's mine. Mine. I have to be confident. Regardless, I don't compare myself to anybody else. If we compared ourselves to other people, we wouldn't have no confidence nowhere, because there's going to always be somebody prettier, always be somebody fine or bad or whatever. Always. Always. So we can't compare ourselves. So my confidence has to come from how I feel about myself. And the problem is that we don't feel about ourselves. Confidence has nothing to do with your size or your skin or where you live, what you drive. Confidence is an inside job. So is happiness. It's an inside job. This is good. Really make you think. We need more of this, Paula. Connie, this is every Thursday night at 8 o'clock. PC Ministries deal with what you feel from the inside out every Thursday night at 8 o'clock. It's called PC Ministries Thursday Night Live, where we deal with what we feel from the inside out every Thursday at 8 o'clock. So put the little thing on so you can remember that I'm on, because I'm here every Thursday night. And whatever topic God gives me to talk about, this is what we talk about. So this happened to be red flags part two. Last week was so good they wanted part two, so here we are. I'm here to meet the needs and help us get to a place where we're walking in the worthiness and the value that God created for us. God died, he gave his only begotten son that we might have life and life more abundantly. And us walking around here with no value and worth and all that, that's not abundant living. It's not. So we have to grab our power back in the area of our self-esteem and our confidence and our worth to help us to stop ignoring these red flags. It's something in us that is causing us to ignore these red flags, and we have to get to the bottom of what that is. A lot of it's wrapped around in childhood trauma. A lot of it's wrapped around in no self-esteem, no self-worth, no confidence, and no value. And we have to get to the bottom of why. We have to. We're not going to be able to stop ignoring these red flags if we don't get to the bottom of why we're doing it in the first place. Why we can sit here and literally look, like we talked about, are we treating, are we in a relationship with potential? And are we treating our mate like a fixer-upper? And when you buy a fixer-upper house, you buy it as is. And you can look at it and see the roof is jacked up, the floor jacked up, the yard jacked up, the plumbing jacked up, the electricity jacked up, the counters need to be taken out, the walls need to be broke down, all of that. But we still make a decision to purchase this fixer-upper and we know when we buy this fixer-upper, we have to fix it. Well, a lot of us are treating our mates like that. We know they are fixer-upper. So you're signing on to fix this person up. And what if this person ain't trying to be fixed up? What is this person doing to help themselves? See, we're signing on for stuff like this. We are allowing things like this, and it's damaging us emotionally. Is wrecking our esteem, it's wrecking our value, and we are responsible for it because we are allowing it. So again, the question was, why are we choosing to ignore these red flags? And I think the answer is we have to, not the answer like that, but I think in order to get out of ignoring these red flags, we have to get to the bottom of why we are ignoring these red flags. So I want to thank you all for tuning in tonight. I thank you all. I thank you all for your input and your comments. I thank you for spending an hour and a half with us tonight as we talked about red flags. I pray that something was said and done tonight that would challenge you, create a dialogue within yourself to make you question the area of your life where you are lacking in your esteem and your value and your confidence, and seek God. He's your maker. God knows everything about you. He said when you were in your mother's womb, yet he formed you, he predestined you, so he knows everything about you. So seek God as it pertains to who you are, and he will definitely tell you and reveal to you and show you. God said that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. He said that we are marvelous in his works. His works are marvelous, and we are his works. So we have to begin to look at ourselves as confidence. We have to be self-aware of our own confidence, self-expressive of our own value. Because if, like I said earlier, if we don't value ourselves, we can't expect anybody else to value us. And we teach people how to treat us. So we have to get to the place to where we're walking in confidence, walking in self-awareness, self-esteem, self-worth. Our value is on our sleeve, and we don't take nothing less. We don't take nothing less. And again, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. Stop ignoring that. If they're showing you over and over and over again, believe them and move accordingly. So again, I thank you all for tuning in. This was Red Flags Part 2. Please share the video. Rewatch the video. Encourage people to watch it 1 and 2. They're still on my page. And I just thank you all for tuning in. Again, I'll see you all next Thursday at 8 p.m. I'm not sure what the topic will be next Thursday, but you will see a flyer coming out Sunday or Monday. Thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate you, your time, and your comments. I love y'all. And stop loving the red flags out of people. Love y'all. Y'all have a good evening and an even better weekend.